Howdy y'all, this is Laird, and welcome to Citizen Sleeper, a game that holds kind of a soft... I've said this about a few games recently. I know I'm starting to sound like repetitive, but it's just a very gentle game. Much more in the line of pacing of like Dredge than Prey or Control. But it's just it's almost meditative. I know that's a strange choice of words, but you'll see what I mean. You are a sleeper, a robot with a bit of a human mind or memories at least. But you ran away from your corporate overlords. The first thing you become aware of on waking is the disconnect. The delay between thinking and feeling, between wanting to act and acting. A minor, almost imperceptible, but always present. It's at its worst when waking, when yourself has spent many dark hours recalling what it felt like to be real, to be a person, to be in a body that was indisputably yours. A leap into a cold lake on a hot day, the sting of blood welling from a fresh wound, the friction of a fingertip. All of a sudden the memories are closer than you thought, blurring as you approach until you can't tell one from the other. The cold slips in behind and around you, and the sensations fade out of reach. Perhaps you should be thankful for the dull nature of this new body given your current circumstances. The walls of the container feel immediately present, cold and hard at your back and face, cramping your limbs. You resist the urge to stretch, or the desire to stretch, knowing that the claustrophobia comes next, and retreat a little from your central nervous system. It isn't painful, not like you used to know pain, at least. In emergency mode, pain is a message delivered with efficiency and ease, a reminder that harm is imminent. There is no insistent throb, no trembling nerves, just a warning delivered with the banal quality of a digital notification. Right now, there are thousands of them. You mostly remember that it wasn't a good plan, but then your options were limited, and once you got the itch to get out by any means possible, it was either that or plan something much worse. It was at least simple: collapse the shaft, drift away into chaos, slip into the cargo processing, seal yourself into containers, then just hope the freighter left before you were missed. Some were lost in the shaft, others never found the meeting point. Only a few made it to the containers, but the freighter, as far as you know, left. That feels like enough. Enough to know that you might no longer be on that grim and heartless rock, even if the airless hold on a freighter might freeze solid long before it reached any destination. That's all there is now. It's been a long time since you left. Surely weeks, maybe months. You are dully aware of the damage to your legs, your right arm. You've been reserving power as much as possible, but your body still needs to shut down many of its systems to protect you. You spent much of that time asleep, knowing that anything else would be impossible to endure. You feel the weight of that impossibility begin to gather. It's time to sleep again, to nudge this false body into mind-inducing delta waves. And your emulated mind, and once again recoil into a dream of when you were once a person. Time passes, the cold creeps further in. You feel something. Warmth. Not true warmth, but the indication of its presence. Your joints release from their rigor, sound to everywhere, screeching and shimmering so loud that your body ducks your hearing to protect its sensors. Then light. White is the cold, softer and softer, till in a haze of dirty yellow, a figure appears. You are out. It's been a few hours since Dragos pulled you from the container. You sit huddled in a corner of his scrapyard, swaddled in the reflective folds of a mylar blanket. You are slowly coming back to consciousness, back to life, and you stare at the ornately curving element of an improvised heater. You are surrounded by angular, incoherent lumps of ship, some corroded beyond recognition, others still carrying glassy wounds along their edges where a plasma arc sliced them apart. As you trace their shapes with fogged eyes, you hear a voice. "So, sleeper, you all thawed yet? Never seen one of you come in like this. New frames must have better perseverance than sub-zero vac. Seen more than a few of you frozen solid to the hull plates or inside-outer locks in my time. They weren't so lucky." Dragos comes into focus, shrouded in makeshift tech, his headset with its glinting eyes mark of a drone operator. On his shoulder, one of his symbiotically linked drones perches, its irising eye locking you with an unflinching stare. Last living sleeper that came through this yard was a while ago. They didn't last long. You struggle to read his expression beneath the tech, but he seems lost in memory for a moment, or perhaps he's just figuring out what to do with you. He ignores your question. "I won't ask what led you to do it. Sell yourself to a corporation. Now suppose you know you can't go back. Your old body, that's theirs now. And you're just software. A rogue emulation illegally possessing corporate property." Nod along. You remember biometrically signing the forms, the cold floor on your feet, as you padded to the sleeper cells. With a promise of a life off-world, but as you do, you get the now familiar sensation that these aren't your memories. These are things you know, but not the things you feel. You are no longer that person. You are an offshoot, a copy. What you don't know is what's ahead. At least the last one didn't. There's no easy way to put it. That body of yours is falling apart. It's the same for any sleeper who makes it out of S and ARP. Wants to protect their property. If they can't keep hold of you, well then, no one can. You remember that too, or at least rumors of it from the other sleepers. Planned obsolescence, a built-in dependence on the regularly administered supplements that are part of your routine. Stop taking them and your body begins to shut down, separate from your emulated mind. How long has it been? How long do you have? Well, for now, sleeper, you're one of the lucky ones. Dragos glances up and away towards the glassy dome of the yard. The eye is the best place you could be right now. The station. You'll see soon enough. Dragos impatiently shifts his weight. Look, I've got to be getting on with. Trails off. There's an old freight container I've been using as storage out in the stacks. We haven't been pulling in much valuable scrap these days, so you're welcome to it. Something wells up inside of you. Emotion. Fatigue. Shakily get to your feet. Alright. You head on up there. You look like you need some rest. And with that, Drago stalks back to the wrecks, his drones already converging on a rusty hulk. Plasma flashes silhouetting his spindly figure as he returns to work. Welcome to Erlin's Eye. Life on the Spire runs in cycles, during which you can talk to characters, explore areas of the station, and perform actions. At the end of each cycle, you need to head to your current home and rest. Resting will move time forward in the station. Head to the empty container location to rest and end the cycle now. You wake up, curled up in the corner of the container, and begin slowly assembling the world around you. After all this time, you still find the body, the one you waken now, strange and disjointed. Its message is readable, but somehow wrong. You sit up, pulling the mylar blanket close against the cold. Here you are on this ruined station, millions of miles from anyone you know. Are you still in the system? Did any of the others make it out? It's impossible to know. After all this, what matters? It all matters. The past is impossible to escape if it remains a blur. What S and ARP did to you cannot be forgotten. You need a way of understanding all this before you can move on. Where are you? What is this place? What happened to the others? The questions outnumber the answers. You want to change that, but you'll have to learn to survive first. Dragos has left a few comforts in the container. A mylar blanket, the bedroll you slept on, a canister of water, a makeshift electric stove, and some faded sachets of some desiccated powder. You thumb the power stud of the stove and begin to boil the water. The contents of the sachet smell like damp wood, and you sprinkle them into the liquid. As the pungent smell washes over you, images from your restless sleep come back. A ring like the station, but skeletal and ghostly. A web of threads pulling at your skin, a constellation of bright polygonal shapes like an angular sun's burning into your mind. There's something unpleasantly visceral about these images, and it is long after you finish drinking before they begin to fade. You tidy away the stove as best you can and try to gather enough energy to greet the day. So, condition, action dice, and energy. I'll explain it. So, we are partially rested, and we are flickering in status. As this goes down, our dice available go down. Dragos is standing in the corner when you close up the container. He's still wearing his headset. In the harsh light of the corridor, you realize it's implanted. A drone sits on his shoulder, its cache of sensor eyes rapidly irising. How are you feeling? The drone chirps. Good to hear. You notice that beneath the operator's rig, his skin is marked by burns and blotches. I know the container isn't much, but it'll keep you safe. So, I'm not gonna chit-chat too long. You well enough to work? Alright then. At the yards, it's simple stuff. We hack these old hulls down, sell them off to the shipyards or the bright market dealers for cryo. Occasionally pull out some tech, something with a bit more value, but most of what comes in is scrap. It's hard to find good hands here, but I figure as a sleeper, you'll be used to the manual labor, and obviously I'll slip you a few chits of commission based on what you turn up. He shuffles his feet nervously. Look, I usually wouldn't do this. In my opinion, best suited moving on as quick as you can, and sleepers, well, trails off. But things being the way they are, I need the help. Okay. Look, just come down to the yard when you're feeling fresher. There's plenty to do. See you later. Looks like it's time to get to work. So, this is the Eye. A swift TRD, Radio the Party of 2. Welcome Raiders, welcome Raiders. I apologize, I turned my alerts off earlier because I was fixing stuff. Thank you. This will definitely be one of our more chill streams. Doing alright. Okay, I kind of have it all set up again. Okay, so back to showing the gameplay. So we go to the yard. So, I have these 5 dice to get through my day. I'm going to be spending them on the hull dissection because it's a neutral task. And by passing it, I progress the clock 2 ticks. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna... This one? Okay, no, I'm actually gonna hold on to that die. We're gonna step away, and we're gonna go to... We're gonna go to the Bright Market. We don't have anything good for that area. Let's see. Tunda. Nothing really good there either. Okay, so we're gonna just... Actually, yeah, we're gonna go assist the shipyard. The last action. Okay. Okay, so I am, like, plumb out of resources. Which is gonna cause my condition to weaken faster. This time, you don't wake up. Instead, the ghost of the station that's shifting skeletal ring surrounds you. For a moment, you are gone, absent from your own body, stretched out across a colorless void. And then the connections begin to establish themselves, threads tugging on the edges of your mind. These threads become vectors of exchange and then extensions as you feel your thoughts slipping away down them, dissolving into millions of distributed nodes they connect to. You see the station, no, you feel the station, like a web of texture in a smooth black fluid. You find a point in the station and you connect to it, pulse through it, follow loops and paths under and around it. Touch more points and you have fingers, and then you try, in a moment of impulsiveness, to connect them. The flow passes through you so rapidly that you feel yourself being carried with it, splitting and separating, eddying and gathering. As you do things occur to you, things that you can't possibly know. You reach out, try to grasp them, try to touch them too. You notice a tugging feeling pulling at you insistently as if it were a small child. Somehow it is pulling in 2 directions at once. You look down. All of a sudden, everything shuts off. Come back trembling into this unfamiliar body, both yours and not yours, all at once. You find yourself standing in the container, eyes now open to the dark steel walls. You feel a change within you, a shift. You close your eyes for a second and you feel it waiting there. The station's played out across your mind, a storm of connective nodes waiting to be explored. And then it's gone. Okay, because I need a doctor, I'm going to come down here today, and I'm going to use my best dice on this. Next! Comes a call from the enforcer at the door. You shuffle down the flickering hallway towards the open apartment door. Keep your head down and shoulders high in the queue, try not to bring attention to yourself. You were thankful for the tip-off that a doctor was operating out of this place, but now that you're here, you aren't so sure. The gang enforcer on the door, the flickering light strips, and decaying hab block. They've all made this long queue a test of your nerve. But your options are few, and without a supply stabilizer, this body, your body, will. You suppress a shiver and shuffle forward to the front of the queue. You try to find something to distract yourself. The enforcer is looking down the corridor. Glance at him. His purpose is unmistakable. He is there to intimidate, to threaten, and if necessary, carry out those threats. His broad shoulders are framed with a metal exoskeleton. A couple of mirror-like implants sit below his eyes like mercury teardrops. Subsidiary sense input or aesthetic markers you aren't sure. You also aren't familiar with the geometric blade-like tattoo on his arm, but make note of it. You avert your eyes when he looks back at the queue. After a few moments, a figure pushes through the doorway and you catch a distant voice. Send in the next one, Toshiro. The enforcer jerks his head and you slip inside, passing through the dark entryway and pushing through a plastic sheeting on the far door. The room beyond is bathed in a warm light. A floor-to-ceiling transparent panel gives a full view of the bright market sealed roof and the buzzing traffic above. And for a moment, you are transfixed by the motion. Come, sit, calls a sharp voice. You see a silhouetted figure turn away, replacing the plastic sheeting over the frame with a simple folding bed. You make your way across the room. The figure turns, and as they do, you see an expression of confusion flash across their features. They open their mouth as if to speak. They blink, and then they quickly regain their composure. Please sit. They gesture to the bed and then turn to open a case of tools on the table. You sit. Sabine turns, a compact diagnostic scanner of some kind in their hand. They hold it to their eye. Remain still, please. Their tone is clipped and businesslike as you stare ahead, still dazed from their expression when you first entered. Fear, recognition. Sadness is unmistakably etched across their face. How long have you been on the station? They ask, scanner still in eye. They lower their scanner to meet your eye. You can talk. You glance towards the doorway. I know the conditions aren't ideal, but I need you to be honest with me. They make some adjustments to the scanner, or you can leave. They set the diagnostic scanner on the table. I'm going to start by assuming you don't know anything. They take your arm and roll up your sleeve, inspecting your synthetic skin. Your body is dying. They say it without ceremony, without drama, but not without empathy. SNARP doesn't like to see its proprietary technology let loose. To prevent bodies like yours, frames, as they call them, from being stolen, repurposed, or in your case, escaping, they built in a process of so-called planned obsolescence. Frames decay rapidly when not regularly injected with stabilizer, one which SNARP remains the sole producer of. They look up. Sound familiar? Good. That may help. They swap to your other arm, running some thin metal device up your skin, over your skin. You feel your forearm tremble. I'm sorry, Sabine says. And you're unsure if they meant for the cold touch of the metal or everything else. Emulations like you, sleepers as most people know you, aren't classified as people in any of the surrogate systems. You have no rights, no status. They focus hard on the inspection of your arm, and SNARP has no reason to release stabilizer into the market. Sabine looks up as if to apologize again, but stop themselves. I know little of this is of use to you. They turn away, disassembling the metal instrument and cleaning it. Silence fills the room as Sabine works, and then the silence gives way to tension. Stare at their back, willing them to say something. Anything. Sabine turns to face you. I may be able to help. They sigh. You see the darkness under their eyes, hear the fatigue in their voice. They gesture to the door. You saw Toshiro outside? He works for my benefactor, Yatagan. They are influential in the low end. They give me the space to work, run the door, take the profits. At the same time, I have to fix up their enforcers and tend to their implants, sew up their wounds. They look away. But Yadigan has connections. Smugglers from the Starward Belt, mercenaries working for the corporations on Ember. If they can source the stabilizer, maybe you'll have a better chance. Sabine sets down their slate, their notes complete. This is dangerous, and it'll be expensive, but I think we can do it. Sabine walks away to the window, their face dappled by the shadows of passing drones. Let's just see if this works first. I'll let you know when I have a lead. You nod and leave, Sabine still staring out unmoved. When you reach the lower level of the market, you look up, back through the panels of the roof to see if you can see their face, but the room looks dark against the lights of the market. You duck your head and walk off into the crowd. And now it's a 3-day clock. Imphis is busy, his broad face uplit by the makeshift gas burner in front of him. With precise, delicate movements, he lays thick chunks of marinated fungus into a dented wok, his other hand idly tossing a metal bowl of sliced vegetable and some red fleck dressing. The smell is incredible. You watch as he fulfills a set of orders, heaping the fungus with bright salad and depositing it in plastic trays. A stack of chits rattles in his apron pocket as customers file past the burner, handing over payment. You join the queue. It's mostly made of off-duty salvagers. Vac suits unzipped and rolled down to expose stained vest, grubby mods, a lattice of scars and tattoos. They discuss the best food on the eye, the best drink, comparing notes on bright market dives. Their words cut through with heavy spacer slang. Eventually, it's your turn. You shuffle to the front. Imphis speaks in a deep, even tone without looking up. First try is free. The smell is almost unbearably strong as he cooks the earthiness of the fungus. Laced with something so spicy the smoke makes your eyes water. The heat from the burner is like a bonfire and your skin hardens in its glare. I know you, sleeper, Imphis says while he cooks, his voice deep but clear. A hard life, lots of stories. He glances up from beneath his cap with piercing eyes. I know. You begin to tell him about your journey to the eye, and he nods as he cooks, his eyes never leaving his work. You tell him of the confusion, the pain, but also the sense of possibility in its sudden arrival. You tell him of the cold and the dark of the container and the endless cycle spent within it. Now it seems you tell him like some dream that you once had but can never forget. You tell him that the eye excites you and scares you. You're unsure where to walk, where to look, what to do. Eventually you tail off, running out of words. He places a plastic tray of steaming fungus in front of you. Next time we can talk some more. He smiles, but next time you pay. He slams a heavy hand against the bottom button on the burner side and it shuts off. The roar of the flame and its impressive heat fades. Next time, then, sleeper. He waves you away, begins to oil the wok. Before you turn back to the alley, you notice a geometric pattern of circular scars across his forearms, each one surrounded with a constellation of glistening pin marks. You walk away, and as you do, you take a bite of the rich, spicy, delicately sweet fungus. Your taste sensors light up like a fusion reactor. You'll be back. Okay, I was worried about that roll. So we sleep for the night. Oh, wrong button. In cycle. So we have to get through 2 more after this one, then we can possibly get some stabilizer. Again, the skeletal ring of the stations fills your mind. It sparkles with glittering lights like stars reflected in a winter lake. It is clearer, crisper than before. The threads still pull, but you remain in place, flickering in the flow. Between the threads, you see bright shapes, caches of shimmering light beneath transparent crystal forms. You follow the path of a thread across the ring through these forms, then leap off into the void. You begin to understand these are nodes and connections, a map of information, of communication. There are so many layers, so many loops, that it seems almost impossible to parse, but you begin to try. The nodes are glassy, bright, but in all this flow, the only solid and fixed points. You approach one, a pyramid or a triangle. Dimensions are difficult here. And lean close to it. Inside, shifting layers conceal a tangle of threads, a meeting point of exchange. Before you can glimpse any further, the glass clouds and hardens, cutting you off. The threads and nodes, passages and puzzle boxes, one leads to another. There is so much here, so many answers, so many questions. All you need to do is follow the paths and open the box. You look out across this ghost landscape of exchange and see an opportunity. But then, that insistent tugging again, pulling at you. You look down and see two lines of thread pulling you in different directions as if they were tied around you. The second thread leads in, pulling deep into the station. Your gaze follows it this time, and you see something a sphere. Shimmering above a strange, angular body, a pulse shoots out from it, passing over you. Like a torch beam. Testing you. Tasting you. The first thread leads out, away from the station into the inky black. Someone out there is tracking you. Hunting you, following the thread to you. They are in a ship, and the ship is approaching ever closer with each cycle. You open your eyes. Time is short. Okay, so we're gonna try to work hard today. Okay, I can't really do anything effective there, so I'm going to the network. Okay, so these you just have to match, and this matches. Okay, how much is it for food? I want to fix my energy so I don't lose more. Emphasis spice. Your mouth stings as your sensorium sends warning signals over and over. This is the good stuff. I'm gonna do 2, so I'm full energy, so I don't have to worry about it for a few days. As you close up, a voice echoes down the corridor towards you. Sleeper, wait up. Fung is coming down the corridor towards you, a wonky grin on his broad face. Hey, glad I caught you. Grins, you do now. Puts a hand on your arm. I've been seeing you hanging around, just want to chat. You staying in that thing? Nods back to the container, shaking his head. Rough, it can be hard to get a start on the eye. He looks away down the passage. What was it Erland said? The eye opens for us all? Nice idea, but well, not always very practical. Glances back at you. We do our best, but it isn't easy. You pass into the main walkway. No one's told you about Erwin? He's the founder of this place. That's why it bears his name. Haven should organize some seminars, he laughs. Not really my department. I'm with systems. Everything in the eye runs on. He runs a hand along the passage wall. This place is a ruin, but systems keeps it spinning somehow, or at least we try to. He stops in the quiet passage. Look, that's not what I'm here to discuss. I saw you around, and I know a little about you sleepers. I have a proposition for you. He glances around, but this is not the place for it. I have an office just across the way. Give me a cycle or two to prepare, and then when you're settled, stop by. He lowers his voice and gives you a dark look. In truth, I need you. If what they say about you sleepers, well, there's work to be done. Pats you on the back. His voice bright and his dark look suddenly gone. Stay clean, sleeper. Walks off down the passage, raising a hand in farewell. Okay, one more day on that. Okay, so back to my work yard. Okay. You arrive into a buzz of activity at the yard. Red blinking lights flash across the vast dark shapes suspended below the dome. They flicker across scorched hull plates and bent structures, spilling from the holes in the twisted shape. The cutter is huge and has been torn apart in some violent encounter. She's a beauty, ain't she? Drago stands to the side, focused on the hulking ship as lowered into the yard. I should thank you. This place was on its last legs when you turned up, and now look at this. The ship descends slowly, its interior visible through the multiple hull breaches. You struggle to gather the same enthusiasm as Drago's for this monstrous craft. You can't help but think of what became of its crew. Believe it or not, I managed to convince our salvage of friends to give it to me on credit. Glances at you. The ship creaks like a calving iceberg as it reaches the base of the yard. Dragos is visibly excited. I know I said you shouldn't stick around, but I'm gonna need some help with this one. The drones start to crawl over the hulk, their lights illuminating flashes of dented hull. Watching, you wonder if you arrived in a similar fashion, locked inside that container. The wreck of the Essen ARP freighter lowered into the yard like a corpse ready to be butchered. Or was the container delivered to Dragos on its own, a boom for your rebirth into this strange station? You shudder. Perhaps if you could learn something about this ship, you might be able to trace the path that led you to this yard. Drago squeezes your shoulder. After these past cycles, I think we're up to it. What do you think? You see the fading name of the ship emblazoned on its side. Winter Light. He claps you on the back. Glad to hear it. Come back in a few and we can make a start. A real beauty, Dragos repeats, perhaps just to himself. Take one last look at the shattered ship as the drones start cutting and then slip out to the yard, feeling suddenly cold in the empty passage. Okay, we just got an upgrade point. I know exactly where it goes. Yeah, we're going to move our engage up to this, yeah. And then next will be Intuit, because Intuit's just kind of meta knowledge, which is handy. See, she should have stabilizer. Okay, nope, one more. I don't want to risk bad dice on it, so I'm actually going to spend my last two collecting data. Okay, one encrypted key. As you drift back from the node, something latches onto you, a thread. Strung tight around you, it tethers you in place. A taste. The voice makes you shiver, its source somehow both distant and close to your ear. You see a distant glint of light shut off, and then suddenly a shape is at your side. It stalks around you, circling like a shark, like a wolf. Entity unknown, astringent, processing. Please hold. The thread around you thickens until it's a ring, a cylinder, a tunnel of light circled around you. It is blinding for a moment. And then it is gone. As it fades, you see a figure, a creature in front of you. Its strange head flickers between different angles, reading you. The shape paces around you on lithe legs, though there is no ground here to pace on. Entity, identify, origin, serial, cadence. The figure faces you expectantly. Unknown, known. The figure's strange head rotates. Brackish signature. Of and not of. Attempting interface. As the figure speaks, more threads begin to spiral from its head, thick, snaking, vine-like ribbons that flex and wave. They approach with intent. You kick off and glide away through the cloud, the threads surging after like predatory tentacles. They follow, wrapping the space around you until you are held within a web, a tangle of tentacles closing in. Hunter halts its threads, its head twitching. Entity, your identity is unknown. We only seek to confirm illegalities. Can you confirm your legal right to sentience? Incorrect. You are an entity. All at once, Hunter's head is directly in front of yours, blocking your vision. You stink of their taste. The one from the sealed dock. I will find access. I will interface. An entity hides in the rotunda. You are its puppet. Hunter extends a razor-edged thread. I will not be diverted from my task. It glows with murderous intent. You lash out with all your force, not a physical strike, but a focusing. A spike of interference leaping out like the tip of a spear. Hunter stumbles, shifts, separates. You open your eyes, blinking back into the station light, shaking with fear. Okay, in cycle. Okay, we're gonna end this recording on this cycle, and then I'm gonna pick up another one the rest of today, the next cycles.